got a couple of hours before I need to be on site again today. So it's currently about 9:30. Probably end up leaving about 11:30, 12ish, or getting ready to leave about 11, and then aim to be on site from 1 through till however late it is, really. So I've done the photos from last night that I took on this camera, the Nikon ZR. Actually surprisingly good. They're very similar to the Z6 Mark III, as you would probably appreciate. I shot a couple of time lapses last night, so I'm going to look at those. But I thought I would give you a brief tutorial in LRTimelapse. This is a time-lapse piece of software that I've used for a handful of years. In this first time-lapse in Pacific, we have Steve putting in the reindeer on the tree, and then the little cable that runs along the top as a whole. But as you can see, there's a bit of flicker. There's the actual images themselves aren't perfect in regards to exposure, because this was kind of a set and forget it. I put it on the tripod, set the Z6 Mark III to be as close to middle exposure as humanly possible. So to actually edit these, you're going to click on the keyword or keyframe wizard. It will then, by default, it wants to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so I'm happy with that. Then you would hit save, so it will save this into the media data of the time-lapse itself, back to LRTimelapse. So we've now saved the media data to these 6 frames. We're then going to go to Lightroom. We're going to go to the import window. We're going to wait for it to actually appear, etc. Then we're going to go back into LRTimelapse. Going to click drag to Lightroom, and fun enough, we're going to drag it into Lightroom to import it. If you don't do this, it will mean that you won't have the right sequence and you won't have the right key frames, which is the things we're actually going to edit, and you would edit these as normal pictures. Personally, this is 1,620 images as a sequence, plus whatever the other bit was, because I tweaked it. So the one thing I haven't done, which I'm just going to check before I do anything else. Yeah, cool. And then the next sequence is 689. And then once Lightroom has loaded all the thumbnails, you just hit import, and it will import it normally, as you would do with any other picture. And then we're just going to wait for these to process. And then you want to come down to here in the filters, specifically, and you're going to want to choose 01 LRTimelapse keyframes. And that will basically just only show you the keyframed images, which is those 6 that we had in LRTimelapse. I'll just leave it in develop because that's what I'll be doing. And then we just got to wait. So I'll come back when we're ready to edit. And basically all we're going to do then is just edit these images as if they're normal photographs. Back to this edit. So I'm going to go to the first image. And the goal here is to not do anything crazy regarding editing, but to edit it as if it was a picture. So I always start with auto. Personally, I pump a bit of contrast in. Because I shot it to protect the highlights, we shouldn't have any clipping. So I'll bring this up by about 3.5 stops, because we've got a raw file. So that looks super cool. And then, if need be, we'll tweak the white balance a little bit. I deliberately shot this. I think my settings were ISO 50, 24 and f22 at 1 second. Because I wanted everything in focus. Wanted some starburst wherever possible. And also the motion below, which you can see here, which will look, I think personally looks really, really nice. Then of course we want to remove character aberration and lens correction, and then you want to hold shift select the end keyframe. So you have all of those 6 images that we're editing selected. Then you want to come up to scripts, and then you want to go to 01 LRTimelapse keyframe scripts. And what this is going to do once this is clicked is it's going to set it's very similar to when you sync images in Lightroom. So it's going to take those edits that I did and it's going to apply them to all 6 of those images. But it's not only doing that, it's also tweaking that exposure between those frames, because these are obviously the only 6 keyframe images, but obviously this entire sequence is around 1,000 frames in size, so it's going to tweak those as we go through the sequence so you don't get random exposure jumps, and we'll be able to streamline that a little bit later in LRTimelapse. So in theory we're all done. So now we'll go to number 2. Now this is a very significant workflow. This will take some time to do, and then what I like to do is I just like to tweak the images as I see fit. So I might bring it down a little bit exposure wise, might bring it up a little exposure wise. I wouldn't go too far though, simply because you can kind of, the warping can go a little bit crazy, a little bit weird. And then again hold shift, click on the final image again, but not the first image. And then you repeat this process until you've done all 6 images. To be fair, I don't think this sequence is going to need much in a way of tweaking, to be honest. And then again we go to File, LRTimelapse Sync Keyframes. Then it will tell me that 4 out of 4 of the images were updated. And again, then you just repeat this process. I'm probably not going to tweak much on the rest of these images because these images look pretty good in my opinion. Also, again, things like speed of drive, speed of computer. If you're on a laptop, then looking at the actual how dirty or not your power is are all factors that will change the performance of your computer. So that's fine to me, so we don't really need to tweak anything. Lovely bursting all the way up the tree, which is nice. And then you will have significant more performance, A, when you're not recording your screen like I'm currently doing, but also B, when this fetching thumbnails previews is done, because what that's doing is it's basically generating all of the thumbnails for 1,600 plus images. So when I go into the full sequence edit, there is all of those images there, so that takes a bit long, but it also hits your hard drive really hard and hits your computer really hard as well. Something else, just while I'm waiting for kind of this stuff to happen, because I don't think these images are going to need much of an edit, to be honest. I'm just going to check the other keyframes. Something which I'm asked a lot is like, how do you always have so much content? How do you kind of, I guess, squeeze the most out of any trips you do, or like even day trips or etc., or like any work jobs, etc. Like for me, it's all about building a habit and building a habit of documenting rather than creating as a whole. So, hopefully you'll notice in this video series, I've done a micro set of videos already within this larger vlog. So yesterday I did a quick, this is the gear I've got, this is the gear I use. Now I'm doing a quick tutorial, and then I'll talk through my settings and etc. later on set. And then also when I'm in and around the outlet, I'll also do some drone BTS. And of course we're going to squeeze this as much as we can when it comes to flying and the opportunities we of course get as a whole. So again, we're on image 5. Again, I don't think that needs tweaking at all. So I'm going to go to image 6. And something else I would recommend is that you keep on top of keeping stuff charged and keeping footage backed up wherever you have the opportunity. So for me, I have brought 3 hard drives, and that's just due to I want to keep kind of, as I said to you earlier, the reason why I'm filming in 5.3K is because A, it looks really good, not as good as Red Raw, not as good as 6K, but from a data rate point of view, when I travel with, I don't have a 14 terabyte hard drive, I have that at home. I want to be able to have basically 2 backups of everything at minimum while I'm traveling, and then another backup when I get home. So we're all done with these edits. So I'm now going to Control S or save for each of these. It's going to ask me whether I would like to save the media data to this file. That is the exact thing I want to do. So we're not going to show this again. We're going to click continue. And what you're doing is you're saving it into the file itself, so that you can then tell LRTimelapse to tweak that media data in the other files around it, so it has that natural progression in regards to exposure changing, and you'll have a lot, and then you can do a little bit of deflickering as well, and then you can bring it back into Lightroom, which is what we're going to do in a minute, and then you can obviously render those images out to get a full 6K or it might be even 8K depending on what you're shooting on sequence as a whole. So I'm just going to go through and save all of this media data. I'm probably not going to have time to export these today, but I wanted to try and get a little bit of the post work done if I can. Only because it's going to be a lot of images, and obviously I need to go back to the center to capture as much as I can. So I'll walk you through the rest of the process though. Cool, that's all that saved. So then we can go back to LRTimelapse. As you can see here, there's kind of a built-out workflow that you would follow anyway. So as you can see, these keyframe slots have already jumped up because that's the exposure change that I've changed. It's updating as we go into the media data. So now we're going to click on Auto Transition. And what this is going to do is it's going to take from keyframe 1 to keyframe 2, and it's going to move those changes, apply it to all of the images in the middle, but also try and smooth out that transition as a whole, from image to image to image to image to image. And then what we'll do is we'll basically just draw a box. If it is needs a bit of deflicker, we'll draw a box around it that I'll show you in a minute, and then we will apply deflicker, and then you would basically just right click on, go in Lightroom, show the full sequence, right click, read data from media files or media data, and then you would just export those images into a specific folder, and then repeat this process for any other of your time lapses. So yeah, obviously you can combine these in camera, but I prefer to have the lateral control, and of course shooting in 16-bit RAW on these beautiful new modern cameras. So thank you ever so much for joining me on this brief, very quick, on-the-fly tutorial for LRTimelapse. YouTube believes you enjoy this video, so why not click that and subscribe to the channel if you're new. And I'll see you very, very soon. Thank you so much.